Hello, I'm the producer of Final Cut Presents a Director's Cut podcast. I'm here to tell you that next week we are going to be live for the very first time on YouTube. So come on out and support us, watch us live as my wonderful, true leader and visionary of Final Cut Presents the Director's Cut podcast will castrate me, the producer, live on air for all of my terrible, horrible, no good, very awful, very bad acting and directing choices. So please come and join us live next week. Remember, I, the producer, will lose everything, but I will have my lovely Scott Eastwood there to defend me. Anyway, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be, and welcome to Final Cut Presents, the Director's Cut podcast, featuring the true visionary and leader of Final Cut Presents, the Director's Cut podcast, Mr. Dino Kidley.
Oh, producer, you are too nice with that introduction.
Oh, you. And, not to be outdone, here is our comic book encyclopedia, the man who knows more about Spider-Man than any man in their lifetime ever should. The one, the only, Mr. One More Day, Michael Fraser!
You ruined it. The minute you mentioned One More Day, you ruined it.
I'm terribly sorry.
Oh, you were doing so well. But to be fair, that is something the producer would actually say. Seriously, though, good evening in my case, good afternoon in their case, in Nathan's case, good morning in Mr. Fraser's case. So with that being said, we are back after a 2-week break. I think we were back. We were off last week, weren't we?
Yeah, we were off last week. I had some shooting I had to do.
Oh, so. Yes, you had very good shooting. By the way, I seriously can't wait for that project. I really can't wait for it.
It was so much fun to shoot. And that's really all I'm going to give away right now. If you want to see more about just the kind of shenanigans that went on, go on to Final Cut's TikTok. We got a bunch of stuff up there. It was a lot of fun just to be able to finally shoot that thing. Now it's just a matter of logistics, getting the B-roll, stuff like that, and making the board, but it's going to be a lot of fun.
Speaking of which, it's been very good fun in the movie and comic book industry this week, which is also what the topic is about. So we'll get into that in a bit, but news first. There has been a lot in the 2 weeks we've missed, but there has been some rather interesting news because the boss of Netflix, which is Reed Hastings, has said that Netflix would consider making a bid for F1 if the sport came up for sale, obviously. In the wake of, because F1 is now under the control of Liberty Media, they bought it from Bernie Ecclestone for $8 billion in 2017. Liberty Media have done wonders for it. There's a new race coming in Miami next year. They've expanded I think it's 23 races for next year, which is a lot if you're the one who's actually part of it. But for me, I don't mind it. I've really enjoyed F1 this year. But however, the sports commercial rights holder still derives the majority of its revenue from traditional TV broadcasters, with F1 TV restricted in certain geographical markets because it's restricted here. And I think it's in Italy and Germany because our coverage of F1 is actually owned by Sky Sports. I think you still can get it here, but you can't get like the full F1 TV program that you can get. Oh, by the way, if you are in one of the countries that does do it, it's only £20 a year. It's quite cheap. And you can have 3 screens for it. So. But the other thing is, Amazon Prime has started investing a lot in its sports division as well. I think I know for a fact they do a lot of tennis. They've actually got about 25 live Premier League games a year. They're not cheap for a start. So with that being said, obviously those who actually watch Drafters 5 know that it is actually quite a good season because it recaps the F1 season. There will be a season 4 coming next year, which I just can't wait for because this has actually been one of the best F1 seasons. But he has actually gone as saying as we make entertainment and not journalism, which should have certain standards and follow ethical guidelines. We also keep our hands off our sport. With sports broadcasts, we have no control over the source. We don't own the Bundesliga, which, in case anyone doesn't know, is German football. It's actually quite good. Bayern Munich actually one of the best teams there, which can make a deal with whomever it wants. But this kind of control would be a prerequisite for us to be able to offer our customers a secure deal. With total control over content and production, a precondition for Netflix to delve into the world of live sports entertainment, Hastings interestingly suggested that if F1 came up for sale, his company could make a bid, perhaps enticed by the resounding success of its annual Drive to Survive docuseries on F1. He says, a few years back, F1 rights were sold. At that time, we were not among the bidders, but today we definitely would consider that. Earlier this year, F1 revealed it was in regular contact with Amazon over a TV rights deal, which would shoot me down to the ground because I have Amazon Prime. Rumours also recently emerged that a consortium in Saudi Arabia is mulling a bid for F1. But if Liberty Media is seriously considering offloading its F1 asset, Netflix and Amazon could join the fray in the bidding war for most sports prime duel. To be honest, gentlemen, I actually do like the idea. I know you two don't watch F1, but obviously, because you have I'm not sure how it works over there, but Sky does hold the rights to F1. I think it's got the rights to NBA basketball. Obviously, Premier League football is not exclusive to it anymore. They haven't got WWF anymore, WWE, sorry, because that's gone to BT Sports. But the fact of the matter is, I wouldn't be disappointed if I could just put on Netflix and say, right, Russian Grand Prix today, watch highlights, watch extended highlights, etc. Mate, I would happily fork out however much it is, as long as it's not extortionate, and it did come into that. I'd say to Reed Hastings, if I ever got to see him one-on-one, I'd say, right, pitch me why I should, watch F1 on Netflix. What are you going to do? What's the purchase going to be? How much is it going to be? I would actually like to see, if it actually came down to that, what Netflix could do in theory.
Well, if Netflix did acquire the rights, no matter where it is, I think it would be a boom, just because it would be something that is a marked difference from a lot of the stuff that Netflix has. And it would be a show of diversification, which for something like Netflix, which lost a lot of stuff thanks to the almighty Disney.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I don't watch F1.
You don't.
I know that there would be purists that would be up in arms about it. There are purists over the fact that Family Guy left Adult Swim, for example. So I know there's going to be purists up in arms about it. But if you're looking at diversifying the income or diversifying your content, which Netflix needs to do, I think it's logical to at least put a bid in for something like F1. That way you've got something that you can stream live at any time. Anytime there's a huge race, and it could be a way that we defined it would be a way that we can look at just looking at what's a new period of life. Like, for example, I can remember back in 2013 when I was in uni, I was roommates with a few British people, and I believe it was Pete. His name was Pete Lang. Shout out to Pete, by the way, if you're listening. But he would every Saturday around like, I cannot remember. Dean, you'd call it football, but I forget which tournament it was. Actually, I think it was. I think it was UEFA Euro. Yeah, but he would get up and he would live stream that at 7 a.m. For 6 hours, and that would be the only thing on in our living room for 6 hours. And he would do it through third-party means. But if you can imagine how much easier that sort of thing would be for like my generation and the generations after to be able to get on there, watch their favorite shows on Netflix, I'm sure he would have done it if it was available. So why wouldn't you?
Definitely would. I know Mr. Fraser isn't really a sporty type because obviously I love F1. I love F2. I love F3. I love Indy racing. I love IndyCar. I've really, really sort of started to get back into that. And I know Fraser doesn't really get into sports so much as we do, because bearing in mind, me and Nathan love NBA. And we still need to have that prediction about who we think is going to win this year.
Cut print Lakers.
Yeah, it will be. But from I'll say a non-sports fan's point of view, Fraser, how would you view all this?
Well, first, I like the sports animes because they have really good character development. Like, I like Haikyuu. I've liked Kuroko Basketball. It's been really good. Honestly, I think it would be easier if you can put it on the Netflix or other apps that people have, because if you make it more attainable, you can, bring in a lot more new eyes onto it. Especially like when kids want to watch it, you can bring kids in to watch basketball, soccer, and everything.
The only problem is, I'll just explain the problem of it where I am. If I want to watch F1, I think it's something like £10 for like a 3-day race weekend. So if you times that by, so it's £10 per F1 race, times that by 23 next year, that's 230 quid every year. That's nearly £2,500 every 10 years. Now, I know for a fact if you get a package, I'll say like the entire sports package, you get everything. But nowadays, due to inflation, when I first had it, it was 40, but this is like 20 odd years ago. It's got to be at least 80 quid if you want, like, say, movies, sports, kids, everything. So if Netflix were to buy it, I think this should actually be done more with more stuff, I mean, I know we don't not really a big fan of WWE, but I actually like what they've done selling their American rights to Peacock, because that's literally what everybody should do now. I mean, over here, Amazon Prime's got more of a tennis. Like I said, they've invested heavily in the Premier League, so it's split between, I think it's BT Sport, Sky, and Amazon. But yeah, it just would be nice if I actually went onto my streaming platform here, whether it be Netflix, Amazon. I don't know if Disney has the balls to go into it. I know they've got ESPN, but I can't get ESPN on my Disney Plus app. I don't know if you two can. But it's just a way of the future. I know Sky Sports has been going for ages and ages and will continue to, but as far as I'm concerned, Sky Sports is outdated. It really is. BT Sport, yeah, you get it for so much a month, but there's hardly anything on there. Not once have I looked at BT Sport and thought, you know what, I might just spend £10 a month extra on this. I mean, no offense, but I was excited when they got WWE, but in no way, shape, or form have I ever thought, you know what, I'm going to spend a tenner a month on, Raw, SmackDown, NXT, all that lot, NXT UK. I'm just like, no, I am not wasting £10 on something that I probably will watch once and then just end up hating. So I will say this: if Reed Hastings is watching and F1 does go on the market, you have the full backing of the visionary host and founder of the Directors Club podcast. So, anything else to add to that, gents, before I move it on?
Actually, interesting enough, basketball actually started to boom in Japan because of a manga named Slam Dunk. And apparently it got basketball and people like joining basketball clubs up by like 200%. But once the manga ended a couple of years later, it actually the productivity for interest in basketball actually dropped.
By the way, Fraser, did you used to read Roald Dahl in school?
I did.
Nope.
I did. I actually read a lot of Roald Dahl in school. Good news, actually. 3 years ago, Netflix first announced they were developing an adaptation of some classic Roald Dahl stories. Bloomberg has actually brought word of a major acquisition that they've actually acquired his entire back catalogue of books, or attempting to. It says it could potentially be a major grab for Netflix, perhaps its biggest acquisition in company history. Unlike, say, Walt Disney, Netflix seldom makes full acquisitions. We know this because the only thing they've really bought has been Mark Miller's full Miller World publishing line. That is the only thing they've ever bought that they're actually going to invest everything into, because that was Jupiter's Legacy, wasn't it? Fraser.
I think so. That Channing Tatum movie?
No, it was with Ben Daniels and Josh Duhamel. That comic book one. Yeah, I know for a fact you've seen it because you saw it before we did.
Oh, no, I misheard you. I thought you meant that other one, Mila Kunis.
Oh, no, that's Jupiter Ascending. That's garbage.
Yeah, that's for some reason I thought that's what you meant. Yeah, Juber's Legacy is actually pretty good. I've read the comics pretty good. I like the changes they made to the show. They're actually, I think there's a new one out right now for the comic book series as well.
Here we go. Netflix's initial agreement with Roald Dahl Story Company was for the rights to Charlie and Chocolate Factory, Matilda, BFG. By the way, do not watch that remake of BFG. Go and watch David Jason's original from 1980, I think it is. BFG, The Twits, Charlie and Great Greengrass, Elevator, George's Marvelous Medicine, Boy Tales of Childhood, Going Solo, Enormous Crocodile, Giraffe and the Pelly and Me, Henry Sugar, Billy and the Minpens, Magic Finger, Izzy Trot, Dirty Beast, and Rhythm Stew. The only confirmed projects to be in the works are 2 Chocolate Factory animated works plus a live-action version of Matilda based on the Broadway musical. So, would actually be nice if Netflix did actually, I'll say, go into more Roald Dahl territory. Because honestly, when I was in primary, I read not so much a lot, but if someone put a Roald Dahl book in my hand, I would not say I'm not going to read that. I read it. I absolutely love Roald Dahl. I'm not overly keen on some of the movies that's gone about. I mean, don't get me wrong. Angelica Houston's The Witches, that was done in the 90s. Oh my God, that scarred a generation. Whereas I'm not overly keen on the reboots. So I'm kind of hoping that if Netflix does do something, they kind of keep it more in line with like the older version of movies and TV that was actually good. I mean, if I say to you two, which Charlie and the Chocolate Factory would you say is the better one? You'd say Gene Wilder's, wouldn't you? You wouldn't say Johnny Depp's.
I'd actually say the book. No disrespect to the Wilder movie, but if I could only choose the movies, Gene Wilder was the perfect Willy Wonka as far as I'm concerned.
And The Witches, the newest one or the oldest one?
Oldest one.
Exactly. What about BFG? There's the 81 with David Jason voice, the BFG, or that remake with Mark Rylance in it.
So
I haven't seen either.
Yeah.
Seriously, I would rather watch David Jason's 1980 version of the BFG for the rest of my life than watch. I'd rather watch that every day than watch WWE ever again. I'm not joking. It is absolutely brilliant. Hell, do you know how much I love it? I'm going to go to you right now, Fraser, and say, if you find that on streaming, Lucian will enjoy it.
Yeah.
Your Lord, our Lord, the Savior, will enjoy it. It's just brilliant. I can't really say anything bad against it. Then again, I can't really say anything bad against all the old school Roald Dahl movies, but it will be interesting to see what Netflix does with the entire back catalogue, because I don't know how much of Millarworld they bought, but bloody hell, Roald Dahl's entire, I'll say, cinematic universe is huge, absolutely huge. So I really genuinely look forward to seeing what they do with it, or how many they do with it even. But seriously, if anyone hasn't watched them or the original Roald Dahl movies, please go and watch them. I absolutely would say that much right now. By the way, we discussed the Scarlett Johansson Disney lawsuit. Well, there's actually Bob Chapek has actually revealed that the company is actively researching ways to tweak contracts with acting talent in light of a lawsuit filed by Scarlett Johansson, a legal team over box office performance of Black Widow. He has made his comments at the Communicopia conference hosted by Goldman Sachs this past Tuesday. I think it's this past Tuesday anyway. We've been off for 2 weeks. He says, we've got a deal that's conceived under certain set of conditions that actually results in the movie being released in a completely different set. So there's a bit of a reset that's going on right now, and ultimately we'll think about that as we do our future talent deals and plan for that and make sure that that's incorporated. But right now we've got sort of this middle position where we're trying to do right by the talent. I think the talent's trying to do right by us, and we'll just sort of figuring out our way to bridge the gap. Now, they obviously, if this is true, they're actually learning from this. But suffice to say, I still think A, they've ripped her off, and B, they have dealt with it even so badly. I mean, even when HBO Max, and everyone knows this because I bet we've gone on about this more than enough, even when HBO Max said they were released the same day in cinemas and in theaters, at least HBO Max did something about it there and then. I have a feeling I know why Bob Chapek's doing this, and it's just to make sure that what happens with Johansson and what potentially could have happened with Emma Stone doesn't happen again. But there's always going to be, we're going to base it off both Disney Plus and box office. But then again, how much is going to come from where? Is it going to be like, I don't know, say 25% from I'll say from cinema, and then say another 25% from Disney Plus. I mean, I don't know how they're going to work that, lads, but I actually I'm pretty much worried for every actor who now associates themselves with Marvel and Disney. I don't know if you two feel the same way or not, but I am actually genuinely worried. I mean, I know the forecast said Scarlett was going to get however many million it was, but in a normal world, she probably could have done that. But obviously, this is the world we live in now. So I bet she was probably jibbed out of at least half of that Disney Plus money. I will say, I think that's generally what she would have been jibbed out of, not however much she actually was. But yes, it's a step forward. But I still worry about every actor who feels like they're going to get screwed by Marvel.
Yeah. It sets a precedent, that's to be sure. And it's not necessarily a good one. I would like to see if they did the same to Dwayne Johnson. Like that's the one I'm waiting on, because I'm sorry, there are bigger actors out there and actresses out there than Scarlett Johansson. Not many, but there are.
Mm-hmm.
And The Rock is the biggest of the big. So if they screwed him the same way that they screwed her, then actors, I mean, legit, I don't know where they go from here. Do I think that Johansson deserved more? Absolutely.
She's made that character what it is.
Yeah, she did. Looking back on it, there are very few people who could have played that role, and even fewer who could play that at least partially as well as Johansson. So, I mean, we know how Hollywood movies work, right? Most of them, regardless of how much they make, are recorded as a loss.
Mm-hmm.
For write-off. So I'm like, the legal precedent for movies itself has always been kind of funny, because if 98% of your products lose money, why the hell do you make them?
Yep.
But I think if we're seeing those sort of tactics in the streaming world, well, geez, that's not good for anybody who's got back end deals.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder how many contracts Marvel's going to have a look at. Downey Jr. doesn't have that problem anymore. Evans doesn't have that problem. Hemsworth will have that problem soon.
Yes, he will.
Natalie Portman will have that problem soon. Taika Waititi will probably still have that problem. Basically, everyone associated with the MCU who signed their contract pre-pandemic will still have that problem. So what I really hope and look forward to I'll say the next couple of weeks or months, hopefully weeks, is what Bob Chapek is actually going to do about these alterations to the contracts. Because obviously, if they're doing both, then it needs to be addressed. Otherwise, if everyone knows, every leading, say, A-list actor that actually works for them thinks, well, how are we going to, what are we going to do now to diddle me out of money? So I still fear for every actor. I'm not going to lie. What do you think, Fraser?
Honestly, Marvel shouldn't have made that mistake. Neither should have Disney. Like, look what Shang-Chi did just by it being in theaters and everything. And they even underestimated that, thinking that it was they quoted experiment. But the movie turned out to be fantastic from what I've heard. And it's made this money. Even the guy that plays mocking them on Twitter, posting memes. So they also should have done Scarlett Johansson's movie sooner, because after they got rid of her in Endgame, it kind of ruined the tension for her own solo film.
Yeah, it kind of did. It's like, oh yeah, at the end of the movie, oh yeah, she's going to die now. And at the very end of the movie, we see the fallout from her death, which will be addressed in Hawkeye, coming in actually 2 months, believe it or not, near enough to the day. So we'll see what
And they
that
said
brings.
it at Christmas time too, which is pretty funny.
Yeah, definitely. Bye, boys. I know we're all horror fans, but we don't really talk about horror much. It's mainly about comic books or about streaming services. But I do actually have some news. There is a Hellraiser reboot coming.
Nice.
Right. Actually, the project is currently in production, and we already know that actress Odessa Azion, I'll figure it out, will play one of the lead Cenobites, presumably a new take on Pinhead. While it's unclear as of this moment what other characters will be released as a film, writer David Goyer, yes, we all know that name, has teased some exciting updates. In fact, he's teased some of the other Cenobites that we can expect in the upcoming Hellraiser. He's revealed while speaking with Collider, I will say that we went back to the original novella for the source material. We are really honouring Clive's work, so that's a thumbs up for me to begin with. He further added the following about director Dave Bruckner and the work he's completed so far. He says, I can say that David Bruckner is a genius. It's filming right now. Footage is terrifying and amazing, and the Cenobites are jaw-dropping. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know how you guys feel about horror, but there is those horror movies you should not redo. Fraser, I will say this, I did think Evil Dead should not be remade. It was remade. It was done brilliantly. We will have this argument forever about which one's best, but
I still like the remake, though.
I know, but we will be arguing about that until we're old with our Zimmer frames. We will. But I've always wanted Nightmare on Elm Street should not have been touched. It was a disaster. Majority of Japanese and Asian horror has been remade in the American version. It sucks. It genuinely does. I have not seen one American movie inspired by an Asian horror franchise, aside from The Grudge, which obviously Sam Raimi did. That has absolutely petrified me to the point of I am not watching that ever again. Whereas all Asian horror terrifies me. But with that being said, I don't know if David Goyer is just saying this just to whet all our appetites or whether he genuinely means it or not. But it's going to take a lot to do better than Clive Barker's original, which I kind of still have nightmares about sometimes, just because of everything. But I must admit, Hellbound Hellraiser 2 was the worst in terms of its gore, all the deaths, everything that they did with that movie. It was just absolutely awful in the terms of I never want to see that movie ever again because it scares the shit out of me. But I suppose if Goya is saying that, then maybe we can sort of take that, not only with a slice of bread, but maybe with a pinch of hope as well.
Yeah, like you never know when it comes to horror. Audiences evolve, audiences change. I keep going back to the example always of Ringu versus The Ring.
Oh God.
One of them did well commercially in America.
Mm-hmm.
One of them.
Yeah.
The other one is a true piece of artistry that everyone and no one should experience.
Yeah, I've still got the original Japanese trilogy wrapped up because I know if I watch that, I will have nightmares.
Oh, it is awful.
If there's a million, yeah. Well, put it this way: the only way I will watch that if there's a millionaire listening. If you pay me £1 million to watch Ringu, I will watch it for £1 million. I shit you not. I give every millionaire listening, if there is any listening, I give you that challenge. I will watch that live if I can, and I will have nightmares for a week.
Well, Dean, I just thought of something, and just hear me out on this.
All right.
You want to have a debate with the producer, right?
Yes, I do.
I'm thinking, what if you lose? I'm thinking if you lose, you watch or you live stream your reaction to the first Ringu.
Oh God!
Like, what do you think?
Would you two pray for my soul if I watched that?
Of course.
Well, you would. Would Fraser pray for my soul?
Probably. I figured it'd be like that scene Clockwork Orange, when Alex has his eyes pried open, he's watching the screen, he's screaming.
If it ever comes to that, Fraser, can you get your son? I'll have a Lord to bless me before I watch it.
I'll get loose in the blessing before you watch it.
What are the chances the producer's going to win?
It depends. If she chooses anybody, say like Scott Eastwood. But we need to, in fact, if anyone's listening and they've got an ideal punishment for our producer, who these boys, it took over a year for her to actually come on after the boys have literally begged her for months. In fact, it actually has been a year. He begged her every single week to come on and contribute just so they could actually make them happy. So if anybody listening's got any ideas, don't be afraid to tweet us, Instagram us, or leave a comment.
She's got to come on to the podcast on camera. The one thing she can't stand to do.
The one thing. Oh, I will say one thing, gents. This Hellraiser reboot is intended for releasing on Hulu.
No, I don't have Hulu, so
that's perfect, Fraser.
It is,
because most of Hulu's content is now on Disney Plus for us Canadians through Star. So you're probably going to be able to see it.
Oh, nice. I've been watching Runaways, so I know Marvel had a few shows on there, so.
This was actually going to be the... I'll tell you what, we could actually do two topics, because I was actually going to put this one in. In a recent series of escalating verbal shots being fired, Neil Blomkamp, who directed District 9, which is... Well, put it this way, it's the last movie I went to see with my dad, and he threatened to basically ask for his money back because it's not what he thought it was going to be. No offense, but that's what a lot of movies are nowadays. Has directed Denis Villeneuve, who's done Blade Runner and Dune, a effing arsehole for the latter's apparent harsh criticism over the MCU. Villeneuve was speaking with Spanish publication El Mundo. He said, when asked why big budget movies are too relevant, the director apparently, according to translated text reports by other publications, said, the problem is that we are in front of too many Marvel movies that are nothing more than a cut and paste of others. Perhaps these types of movies have turned us into zombies a bit, but big and expensive movies of great value, there are many today. I don't feel capable of being pessimistic at all. So Neil Blomkamp has actually tweeted, but what a fucking arsehole. But it's not just Blomkamp, it's not just Villeneuve who feels that way. Scorsese thinks that about Marvel movies as well.
Yeah. Well, if you look at them, even tonally, they're very similar to one another tonally. Yeah. Like,
all right, then, boys. Right, we'll do a comparison, right? So in Iron Man, it's an origin story. We have someone close to him who's the villain. Obviously, he becomes said person in that movie. There's a love interest. So help me out with this, just so we can try and either debunk Villeneuve's claim or actually make it a little bit better. So we have a villain that we know, or a villain that he's close to. There is, something happens a bit closer to home. Something happens to him that makes him that person. And we spend half of the movie building up to the very end where there's a big fight and something happens. So,
you missed one, ends up fighting somebody that either has the same type of ability like them or some form of
mutation, some form
personal
of human ability.
Personal connection would be the best.
Oh no, I mean like legit. I loved Winter Soldier, but Cap and Winter Soldier basically had like the same abilities. Yeah. Iron Man 1, Tony basically fought the giant version of his first suit, yep. And Logan fought that copy of himself.
Yeah, Thor was basically fighting his brother. Captain America, his greatest nemesis, is in Red Skull. I will say one thing, boys. I don't really think the Avengers movies falls into that category, though.
I would argue that it does formulaically and tonally. I don't think it would as an origin, because it doesn't need to be an origin.
Yeah. But obviously, the first Avengers movie is when everyone came together, so that technically is in that.
Yeah, but I mean, tonally though, they're all like big budget blockbusters / like comedic elements, and all of their heroes to some extent share that same sort of philosophy. Iron Man and Cap, for example, very, very similar tonally. You're never going to see something out of left field outside of that, big action blockbuster, slight comedic edge sort of thing. That's why Ghost Rider hasn't appeared.
Yeah. But then again, Ghost Rider was absolutely comprehensively destroyed by those two movies.
Oh yeah.
Even Idris Elba couldn't save the second one.
Yeah, and then they had Ghost Rider and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and...
Yeah, no offense, but I think the movies has kind of killed Ghost Rider in its path. It really has.
No, they could fix it if they got the right kind of writer for it. They could probably fix Ghost Rider quite a bit.
Maybe.
You would need the right actor for it as well.
I'm with Dean on this. They might be able to, but it's more of the will of Marvel, and the will of like the tones of their movies. Could they? Absolutely, but it would be such a deviation.
Yeah.
From the from the Marvel formula to fix Ghost Rider and fix it the right way, that I don't think they'd ever do it.
I would just use the Robbie Reyes version, just because he's a really good character and there's more relatable things with him.
And you're not gonna do like the Spider-Verse thing they're trying to do right now? You wouldn't bring back Nicolas Cage?
No.
No.
With Robbie Reyes, the interesting thing about him is he's an older brother taking care of his younger brother who's in a wheelchair. There'll be spoilers from the comics in my explanation. I don't think anyone's gonna care. He's a street racing to try and give him and his brother a better life, and eventually he gets bonded with a vengeful spirit that turns out not to be a spirit of vengeance, and it turns out the comics been around forever. The spirit of his uncle possessed him, and he's the one that caused his brother to end up in the chair. And when Robbie takes vengeance on somebody he's fighting, he permanently gets bonded with the spirit, and you see him struggle with control and the spirit trying to take control of his body. And it changes the dynamic between him and his brother. And I thought it was an interesting concept, and I wouldn't mind either seeing it as a show because they kind of touched on it a bit on the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they didn't really get into the whole thing of this stuff going on. So if they use that version, I feel like they could do a lot more with it than if they just want to retread with Nick Cage.
In fairness, Fraser, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., I believe, is not actually MCU canon. So nothing to say they can't go with that. But to be fair, I find that more appealing than Nicolas Cage's version. I really do.
That in the comics, he turns one of the Quinjets into one of the Hell Rides, and it's such an epic image.
Oh, I can imagine how bad that would be. Last bit of news, gentlemen. I'll just get it up here. Now, I don't know how you two are going to take this, but I think let's just say if my sister ever finds out about this, she will literally tear an entire strip on her. She will literally scream her house down into oblivion because The Lost Boys is getting a remake.
I want you to call her. I want you to put her on speakerphone as you tell her this, as we hear the house all coming down.
It'll probably go straight to speaker anyway.
It's true. It's true. You should have waited next week for the live show.
Yeah, I might even try and get her on next week because she probably won't know. She won't know this. But basically, Lost Boys is one of those absolute classics that no one ever does. Even though it's directed by Joel Schumacher in his prime, I will say that, because he also did Flatliners, which is fucking scary as shit. I will say this, Joel Schumacher did do his good works, but unfortunately, when in the 90s stuff, after he did Batman, it all went to shit. It really did. So, I mean, no offense, but the original started Kiefer Sutherland's career. If it wasn't for Lost Boys, we would not have a Jack Bauer. So, there's been recent plans. Oh, yes. Now words come in that The Lost Boys will instead be remade for the big screen instead, and there's already some talent attached, including Knives Out Jaden Martell. Having starred as Jacob Frombley in Rian Johnson's 29 Whodunit and young Bill Denberg in the 2 It movies, as well as playing Morty to Christopher Lloyd's Rick. He's set on with Noah Jupe, whose credits include Quiet Place movies, following the Ferrari Night Manager and the Underwood. No word from THR on who the actors are playing, but since this is described as a brand new reimagined take on The Lost Boys, it's possible these will be completely new characters rather than the contemporary versions of people from the 1970s or 1980s original. Behind the scenes phrase, this might interest you. Randy McKinnon, who's writing Warner Brothers and DC Static Shock movie, will pen this Lost Boys remake with I Am Not Okay With This Jonathan Erstwhile will direct. No specific plot details will have been revealed, other than it will be set in the modern day. Now, if anyone's got children listening, please cover their ears for the next 5 seconds. I've got 2 words to describe this bit of news. Fuck off. Get it out of my fucking sight. Don't even think about redoing that. That's all I've got to say on it.
I actually really like Lost Boys. Like Corey Feldman as Edgar Frog. I even watched the other 2 movies. They're not as good as they're not as good as the original one.
Mate, I don't know if you're trying to defend it or not, but this is one of those movies that should not be remade. It's classic as it is.
I'm getting to that.
Go on.
I'm getting to it, Dean. You know, a little.
Come on, where's Joe Flicks when we need him? Come on.
Well, maybe you let Joe Flicks build up to being Joe Flicks. We get the Joe Flicks being Joe Flicks.
Look, we just want Joe Flicks, man.
Come on, bring out Joe Flicks for this piece of shit.
We want Joe. We want Joe. We want Joe.
Let me finish.
Yay! Come on then, Fraser.
I love the original. Like, I even bought the 3 combo pack. I even read the comic books as well because they did comic books. The second one was okay. The third one was all right. I kind of like the FU finale that Corey Feldman pulls in it. I would have liked a TV series if they continued to just focus on Edgar Frog and his brother and just them going around by the skin of their teeth pulling off like vampire wins. But of course, not going to get that. They shouldn't remake it. There's no reason to remake it because at this point, Hollywood is just completely flooded and overbloated with remakes. Because it's hitting the point that nobody can do anything creative anymore, so they just want to hit the old thing for the quick money. But if you F up doing Lost Boys, you might as well burn down your studio.
Yep.
There's no reason to remake it. Maybe spin stuff off and make reference to the original, but don't do stuff that will alter everything that's been established. But if you're going to remake it, let it close your door. Just close your door, please. Close the door.
It's for ladies and gentlemen. Don't worry.
He's coming out. He's coming out.
Bring us to Joe. Please bring us to Joe. We need the Joe.
We need the Joe.
We need the Joe. Yourself from the gallows while you get permanently beat down with sticks, staffs, every solid object that's ever existed. You should run yourself over with a car while you get your entrails dragged out in front of the complete paparazzi and media. There's no reason to remake The Lost Boys. Stop remaking stuff. I'm tired of seeing the same movie over and over again. You're going to remake it. It's going to suck. It's not like the same thing when you make shitty video game movies and you're like, instead, try this because The Lost Boys don't even need their freaking DVD sales to be boosted up because it's a cult classic.
It is such a cult classic.
It's and like Max Landis tried remaking American Werewolf in London. There's no point to remake it. Your dad made the movie. You're not going to do better than your dad. Your movies can barely sell. You're also a piece of shit with your cult where you abuse women.
Mr. Fraser's views do not reflect the views of everyone at Final Cut Productions.
I'm thrilled to see Joe here.
Cult.
He's here.
He's been outed about his cult, which he refers to as the color cult. So,
Fraser, there is actually a bit more weight to what I'm going to say. the last Joe Schumacher horror movie to be remade was Flatliners, and that sank even worse than the Titanic.
It sucked. I watched it. It sucked. They copped out.
It sucked. I haven't even watched it, and I already know how bad it sucked.
It sucks. Elliot Page couldn't save that movie. It sucks.
Normally, I like to end the news on a really bit of.
That is a good note. We got Joe Flicks.
We got the Joe Flicks back. Right, in that case, we'll finish it on that bit of good news, ladies and gentlemen. But by the way, I can definitely speak for Mr. Fraser. I don't know how Mr. Tasker feels about this, but on behalf of 2 of the 3 hosts of the Director's Cut podcast, if this film is ever made, for the love of vampiric God, do not watch it. Please do not watch it. Right then, now, yes, it's going to be a comic book related topic this week, but there is a reason why. Because there's actually been a very interesting take. If anyone is familiar with the Friday the 13th lawsuit, I think you two aren't really familiar with it, but I am. Basically, what happened with that was Victor Miller, I think it was after about, was it 30? I think it was 30 years or so. He wrote the screenplay, Friday the 13th. The copyright law says that after a certain period of time, which then was 30 years, he can legally take his screenplay back. Only in the US, though, not everywhere else, because that's part of the production company. Now, I'm not quite sure how long this lawsuit went on between Victor Miller and Sean Cunningham Productions, but it went on forever and ever. I don't even know if it's been sorted yet or not. Now, however, Marvel has a problem of its own because they have actually sued to decide future ownership of characters, including Spider-Man and Iron Man. I've got the press release here from 2 days ago. Disney's Marvel unit has filed 5 lawsuits in hopes of retaining full control and ownership of Avengers characters, including Iron Man, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Falcon, Thor, and others. This has been reported on the New York Times. The litigation is a counter move that the heirs of several Marvel authors, basically we are talking like Jack Kirby, who literally made about half of Marvel's slate, Stan Lee as well, he made loads of Ditko, etc., etc. Marvel authors have filed dozens of termination notices with the US Copyright Office seeking to end Marvel's licenses for characters. However, Marvel argues that the characters were created under work for high ranges, meaning that their heirs would have no valid claim to the copyrights. There's a lot of boring stuff, but however, this is where the interesting part is. If Marvel did lose these, because just going to give you an example of something that has happened where somebody has won. Fraser does know this better than I do. DC and Warner Brothers had a bit of had the same thing with Superman with the Jerry Siegel family. Now, Fraser, I'm not particularly familiar with that. I think you are, but I'm sort of thinking that it was actually settled, and now on every thing that Superman is actually used for, it says something like with consent of the Jerry Siegel family.
Yeah, it pretty much says that, and every time they show like created by Jerry Siegel always has top billing. Where it says Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
So officially, if Marvel loses these, there's nothing to say that they won't. There's nothing to say that they will. Disney would be legally required to share ownership of characters worth billions. So let's just take Avengers Endgame, for instance. So I'm only just going to say it took, $2 billion? So obviously, all the characters involved in that would have to... I think I've got this right. I'm not entirely sure, so don't butcher me on it. But for every character that's used, there would have to be a certain amount of payment that goes to said estates. Let me just find something else just to give you a bit of an idea. Here it is. I've got it here. One of these lawsuits is actually for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, because it actually says copyright termination filed by Steve Ditko estate, and he created both of them. Whatever catches with copyright termination notices is that if granted, they only cancels US rights for work. The notices filed by Patrick J. Ditko, who is nephew of Steve Ditko, are specifically seeking to terminate the copyright on the Spider-Man story from Amazing Fantasy number 15 and the Doctor Strange story from Strange Tale 1110. Several creators have successfully terminated the copyright for their works and regained the rights in recent years, including the estate of Wes Craven for Nightmare on Elm Street. Clive Barker with his Novella-inspired Hellraiser, and obviously Victor Miller for Friday the 13th, which I've just gone on about. However, comic book creators have tried this on Marvel with family Jack Kirby to file in some 45 termination notices, but they lost. However, and Fraser, here he is, perhaps the most famous instance of a comic creator's family successfully regaining the rights back to their creation was Superman, who must now include the line by a special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family on all instances with a Man of Steel. Now, what makes this even more interesting is that the Ditko estate says the termination for Spider-Man and Doctor Strange will be in June 2023. So Marvel and Disney will no doubt fight these copyright terminations. There's further updates on this, but if this pans out, and this pans out the way hopefully it won't happen, but it might. It might be a case of you might not be able to see Doctor Strange and Spider-Man in the MCU anymore. Don't quote me on it. I'm not quite sure that's what's going to happen, but then again, in the movie world, anything's possible. So, chaps, obviously, copyright we're not lawyers. This isn't our cup of tea. But saying that, regardless of whether it was works for hire, whoever Steve Ditko still created everybody he created. Stan Lee still did. Jack Kirby still did. So by rights, and this is me saying it because I've always tried to be as fair as possible with everyone. They should, by rights, have those termination, and they should basically have those rights anyway to the characters. Because their estate created them, so technically it's almost like a family member, if you like. So we know for a fact Marvel won't budge. We know Disney won't budge, definitely not. So should Disney even fight this when even in their blackest of black hearts, they know that it's something that was created by Steve Ditko and everyone else, regardless whether it works for hire, it should go back. I think it should go back. What do you two think?
Disney's going to fight with everything they got.
Yeah.
You're talking about taking away two properties from the MCU.
Two major ones, but this obviously covers everyone. But the Ditko, but obviously Doctor Strange and Spider-Man will be done by the. Make sure I get that right. Yeah, by Steve Ditko's estate.
Exactly. So, because one of your major cash cows is involved, that being Spider-Man, the guy who's merchandising rights and everything other than that, and the lovely Insomniac video game, which is coming out in a couple of years, by the way.
Which we can't wait for. We did cover this 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly. But thing is, if you've got all of that, that is in the pipeline that is coming out, that in itself is guaranteed billions of dollars for Disney.
Pretty much.
Guaranteed. So if I'm Disney, as horrible as it is, I'm going to fight with everything I got, and I am not going to lose Spidey. There is no way I'm going to lose Spidey. There is and look at the precedent for Spidey. Sony held the film rights, and they still do, simply because Disney does not want to lose the merchandising piece of pie for their biggest cash cow ever. If you think that Disney isn't going to fight this, you're crazy. Do I think that they should fight it from an ethical stance? I think they should work with the family to try to figure out what is the best way to move forward, crediting Kirby for what he deserves. Same with Stan Lee, same with Ditko. But again, it's Disney. They're not the ethical sweethearts everywhere.
They're not the brightest bunch in the streaming world, are they?
Oh no, I disagree. I think they are the brightest of the bright. It's in terms of ethics where I don't think they are the sweetest plum, as it were. But
you'll get no argument there.
Like I think they're going to. I think first of all, they've got the best streaming service, hands down. I'm sorry,
they do.
More than
likely they will win this.
Yep, I'm going to say this hands down. They got the best streaming service. They've got a lot of IPs. Like unbelievable the amount of IPs that they have. They are one of the few people that own enough copyrights to have all the creative freedom in the world to create new ones. Hell, they have inroads in sporting networks, wrestling, adult content, like everything that you can imagine. Disney holds a piece of the pie of. They are brilliant at that. Absolutely. And do they have enough money to make the ethical decision? Absolutely. Will they? Of course not.
Nope.
So that is my thoughts on this. If you look at it from an ethical lens, absolutely. You look at it from a business lens, from a Disney lens, oh God, no. Not going to do it.
But I think with stuff, well, this is my thinking of it. I think with stuff like this, it kind of blurs it where it becomes from business to becoming seriously personal. I generally do think that. I think we obviously, well, say like you just said, Disney's the biggest streaming service there is. Obviously, the House of Mouse is as big and powerful as it is.
Damn right, Skippy.
There you go. But the fact of the matter is, I've always had there is actually an old Top Gear saying that comes into effect here. Just because, what was it Richard Hammond once said? Having size of the size of one's wallet doesn't make you a better driver. So having the size of one wallet doesn't make you a great human being. So ideally, in an ideal perfect world, what we should do is just work with them, ignore the bloody lawsuits, because it's going to take millions, if not hundreds of millions, of wasting everybody's time going in and out of court that many times. And like I said, I've always been not so much candid, but I've always been a case of, if it's been made by someone, it should be theirs. Do what DC did with Superman. Work it out with a family, and then just have, say, in coordination or in assistance with the family of Stan Lee or Steve Ditko. That is a lot better than making everyone hate. But then again, even if they do hate Disney and Marvel, they'll still go and watch the movies. What does our comic book encyclopedia say?
Okay, so with this lawsuit going on, it's more favor to the artist. Have you guys ever heard of the Marvel method?
No.
Only just now.
The Marvel method is, give me 1 second. The Marvel method leaves the layout of the page just to the discretion of the artist. So basically, there's two noble ways most people do the scripts, where they'll completely write out in detail. And in the other way, they'll give you the general idea what the story is and everything, and then the artist takes care of everything. Because then the editor will come in, the person will come in after the writer and just fill in the word balloons. And Steve Ditko would do that a lot when he'd be writing the Spider-Man stories. He would draw everything, and then he'd leave the word balloons all to Stan Lee to write. Like Jack Kirby, when he first made Silver Surfer, you hear stories where Stan's looking at it, and he explains that someone like Galactus, of course, would have a herald to scope out worlds and everything so he can come and devour them. The artists had more so control of how someone would look. They'd get the general, like, this is the story, this is everything that's going to happen, and then it's up to them to sketch everything. And if that wasn't well enough, the artist would have to go back and fix it. The Marvel method is still used today by even Dan Slott. So you literally have to trust your artists to cover everything, because they had to get everything out in a timely manner. Because Marvel had such a tight schedule on crunching out their books. So in a lot of ways, the Ditko estate has a lot more to stand on because of all the stuff that Steve Ditko had to come up with when he was drawing Spider-Man and designing the original Spider-Man costume.
Mm-hmm.
The same with Doctor Strange.
Yeah. Do you know what gets me, though? Marvel was... a lot of people know this. Fraser knows this. I didn't know this because I've heard this many an occasion. Marvel was going bankrupt in the 90s, and they sold off the film rights to, what was it, Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Spider-Man. Because if they hadn't sold them three to Sony, who was it? Sony and 20th Century Fox, Marvel Comics would not exist anymore. So you would think, well, hold on a minute. You'd think they would think, hold on a minute. Spider-Man movies rights actually saved us from going under. Maybe we should reward the Ditko estate and just say, right, we'll work out a deal. We'll get our lawyers in place, and we'll say, right, you can have such and such of every Spider-Man movie. However, we will put say in coordination or with the assistance of Ditko family, etc., etc. That's what should happen, but we know it won't happen.
That's why there's the iconic line that Jack Kirby has said. He says, "Don't do comics because they'll break your heart." And even Alan Moore got screwed over when he did the deal for Watchmen. The agreement was if the book wasn't in print anymore, he would receive the rights back to his characters. He also was supposed to write a prequel story. And as you know, Watchmen exploded. Everybody wanted it. Alan Moore would throw his script in a taxi cab and pay the driver to take it to his artist. And it would get to the point, even the artist, when you see these weird squiggles on the page, he actually had like his family helping him put the book together to meet deadlines. Alan Moore feels like he got completely swindled, and that's why he wouldn't work for DC anymore. He felt the same when it would come to like Marvel. He literally, Alan Moore in his desk has thousands of dollars of all his stuff adapted. He won't even put his name on. He won't even cash the checks because that's how strongly he feels. The only thing that came out that has his name on that's been adapted is the Justice League episode for The Man That Has Everything. It's the only time you'll actually see Alan Moore's name on it because that's the only one that he liked out of everything.
Is that second season where Superman's hallucinating about being on Krypton with his son?
Yep.
Oh, I do like that one. Yeah, I can see why I do that.
It's also the first time in the comic books that Superman actually uses his heat vision on somebody.
That's actually in there as well. So basically, with all this that's going on, it makes me fear for the future of everything you two do, including the adventures of Professor Phil Woods.
You what? How does that even remotely concern me? A comic book character, played by an artist in a studio that absolutely loves me. Of course, if they were to ever sell off the rights, I'd be screwed. But what can you do?
Image Comics does it the right way as well because all their writers, artists, creators retain the rights. The only thing Image gets is a small portion of the sales because they own the logo that goes on your books. And that's what a lot of people should be doing. That's why we're seeing the rise of Substack, where people are being hired for their original work, retaining the rights and being able to distribute it through a subscription process. That's why Marvel and DC are losing all these top writers now, because they're being given these grants and they can do whatever books that they want to do instead of just what they're assigned.
So what we're basically saying is, if you're a comic book writer, Fraser, and you actually want to be treated right, just go and be hired by, is it Action or Image Comics? Is it
Image?
It would be Image Comics, and now Substack is starting up. A lot of people have been dropping their books through webtoons, and even some of their webtoon books have been getting adapted into animes, like King of High School, Tower of God. Lore Olympus exploded, and now it's everywhere.
There we go, then. That's one way to do it, because DC will screw you over. Although, saying that, they did actually come to an agreement with the Siegel family about Superman, so I suppose there is a little bit of hope in DC, but we're not really saying that much, are we?
Yeah, not really.
Yeah. So basically, what we're saying to everybody else is, don't go big, go small.
If it makes it big, though, it makes it big.
Yeah, you can be as rich as you want, but at the end of the day, when you want your creations back, you're going to get so screwed over. It's unbelievable.
Well, look what happened with Robert Kirkman. He started up The Walking Dead that he was doing for Image, yes, and it exploded to a point. He's the only member who's ever been promoted to having his own branch of comics and being made part of the owner of Image Comics, and he's not one of the founders because his books are so big.
Or if you know someone with a lot of money, and make your own comic. Go and make your own comic book company and get the rights to it. In fact, if there's anyone from Image listening, Mr. Michael Fraser will have Mr. Phil Woods for you if you would hear him out.
Image has so many good books. Like, there's so much stuff you could recommend. Like, there's The Walking Dead, there's Invincible, there's Rat Queens. Like, there's so many good books that they drop that a lot of people should be checking out.
Fraser, just a question. Which set of comics does Bloodshot belong to?
Bloodshot belongs to Valiant Comics.
Oh, I didn't know if that was Image, because I know Bloodshot's not really somebody I know of, so I knew it was sort of like one of those one of the ones I weren't quite sure of. I didn't know if it was Image or if it was.
Well, if you want a series to be introduced to them, there is a web series called Ninjak vs. the Valiant Universe. I believe it's on YouTube, and the first live-action Bloodshot was played by Jason David Frank.
There we go. He probably did it better than Vin Diesel, although I'm pretty sure the producer would say, no, it was Vin Diesel who did it better.
They even had an Arrow actor in it. The guy that played Deadshot plays Ninjak in it.
Excuse me a minute. Sorry about that. Is there really anything else we can add to this? Any future comic book writers, if they do listen, this is Fraser obviously giving his advice. Don't go Marvel or DC, go Image. Right. Anything else on the docket, gentlemen, or is that it? I do have one thing, but I want to see if you two have anything first before I have my thing.
In terms of news, in terms of topics, absolutely
anything.
Not. The one thing I will say is, if anyone out there can recommend a good video editor that could do a time code that isn't, or a countdown timer that isn't Adobe Premiere Pro or Final Cut Pro X, please let me know. It will be greatly appreciated. Aside from that, no, I've got nothing on the docket, but I do have a couple of people I need to thank when we get into the gratuitous plugs.
Okay then. Fraser?
I will be working more Phil Woods. I'm working on the Rusty the Exterminator currently. I have 2 other projects I'm thinking of doing, which I will do my pitch here. We have gotten Zombie Nathan, but unfortunately Nathan's quest isn't over. As young Nathan has fortunately learned, after every event where he's been taken out, he has been reborn inside a B-movie. Nathan somehow has to converse these B-movies in order to make it back home. And we have one more. I, Vincent Kennedy McMahon. After messing with the powers that be, I now must go through parts unknown to make my way back to the WWE.
Oh, that would work.
I do either of them.
Yeah, bet you would.
Just gonna say I do either of them. So do you want to see Michael Fraser go on for issue after issue after issue of Bruce Campbell's love child?
Oh, please.
Or do you want to see Michael Fraser go for issue after issue after issue of his love letter to Vincent Kennedy McMahon?
Oh, I want both.
That's really what this boils down to. Like, do you want a fan vote of this, Fraser, or what?
I'm down to pretty much write anything.
So I guess vote for whichever one you would like to see on all of our social media platforms. Because quite frankly, both of those sound like something I would do. It's just a matter of, do you want to see Michael Fraser's writing fangirling over Bruce Campbell or fangirling over Vincent Kennedy McMahon? Either way, you're going to see Michael Fraser at his most fangirl.
Yeah.
And I have another one for laughs, if I can put it together. Triple H's Digimon Adventures.
Oh, God, no, I'm not going through that. That's not authentic. Everyone knows Digimon is just a knockoff of Pokemon.
So, depending
Digimon had the better intro.
Oh, yeah, come on! No, they didn't. All it was Digimon, digital monsters. Digimon are the champions over and over and over again. If I wanted to do an intro like that, I'd just go bow down to the kid. Oh, crap.
And that is why you just made the case of why it is better than the intro Pokemon.
Oh, crap.
So we'll throw a poll up on our Twitter account, and we'll see what people want to see written.
I myself are looking forward to the comic book where it is actually Fraser versus Fraser.
Oh,
written by Michael Fraser, written by Jessica Fraser Smith as well.
Yes, absolutely.
And ruled over by me and Mr. Tasker and our producer.
Oh my god! Can I write the forward? Please, can I write the forward? Jesse, if you're listening to this, I will kill to write the forward.
Can Jesse please write it as well?
Hello. This is the autobiography of Michael Fraser, born in 1992 to Mr. and Mrs. Fraser. But who cares about any of that? You don't want to hear about my traumatic childhood or my past with removable tattoos that unfortunately led to the man you see before you. You want to hear about 1997, when I first got exposure to Bill Goldberg at the age of 5. That spear kick-started the cockles of my heart and made me a fan of professional wrestling. It also gave me some other feelings that it took me several years to process. So please let me write the forward. Please, I beg you.
Please let him write the forward.
And yes, for laughs, if any of these take off, I will write "Make Love the Goldberg Way," because since Nathan wants to milk this, I might as well milk it too.
Oh God. So speaking of which, since we're moving on to gratuitous plugs by the sound of it, thank you to Final Cut Productions and for basically letting me screw off for about a week so that I could go shoot. It's tentatively called Joker's Pool Party, but through Death Pixie Productions, some of my friends there, we all got together. It was like a big reunion to shoot this VHS style romp of a those old VHS board games. Hell of a lot of fun to shoot, let me just say that. Special thanks to Becky, aka Ello, my makeup artist. She made me look pretty. You can find that up on Final Cut's TikTok. I do not know when the project is going to release. It's all coming down to how we can edit the footage, whether or not we're going to go with a digital board or a physical board, and just basically how are we going to turn this one day of just fun of getting the band back together into a product that we can release for free, copyright free for you, just because we had a lot of fun making it. It was way more fun than it had any right to be. Thank you to everybody involved. Thank you to Joe Flicks for helping make sure that some of the writing that will be appearing is authentic to the comics. And thank you, Dean, just for being a nice guy. It was so much fun to do. And that's really all I have to say. But I figured I'd take this time in front of the thousands of viewership we get from the 3 people who are just obsessed with us. Thank you to those 3 people, by the way. To basically allow me to go and just have a laugh, for God's sake.
I will say one thing. I really don't think I'm not really looking forward to any movies coming out in the next 6 months. All I want is to play this game with you two and anybody else we can get for a live stream. That might make me sound a bit dense, but you just don't get decent games like this anymore. Movies come out like every week, near enough every day. Board games like this don't come that often,
No.
particularly when Nathan's voicing it and he knows everything.
No, I'm all I can tell you is I can tell you the board game that was a big inspiration for this and why we ended up doing the whole video thing, because I've been obsessed with it for years to see just how it will work in a setting, because it's one of those things I have never actually played, but I've seen lots of other people play it, and it's built down into Pandemonium. It's Atmosphere the Harbingers. I don't know if you've ever played that.
Hold on, is that one of those 90s board games?
Yes.
I haven't played it, but I know of it because I used to see the adverts and they used to scare the shit out of me.
Yeah, it is legit so much fun. And it's so much fun to watch people play, so I thought, okay, what if we took that but made Joker the host?
Nice.
And that in itself is just so much fun. Like just to be able to know that some of the things that you're going to do, you're going to get either two reactions, oh you dick, or like fundamentally changing the game about halfway through. It's just gonna be a good time when it all gets released. So I just finished shooting it last week. Thank you to everybody involved. It means more to me than you could doubt.
I will say, the one thing I hope for this is if somebody actually makes a very bad move, you do a laugh and say, "What were you thinking? Are you mad? That's my job."
So I can't give anything away.
You can't, don't.
I can't give anything away. So
as long as there is something along those lines in that, I will be happy.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about that if I were you. There are
I'm not. I'm going to leave my announcement for last because obviously it's going to have to be put up on Insta and Twitter at the end. So we'll do socials first, gentlemen.
Go ahead, my excellent and advantageous creator.
You can find me at Twitter at 5-star wildcard. You can find me at Gokai Studios on Twitter. If you want to check out some of the art that's going to be done for Paranormal Patrollers, check out Neverending Tunes. Our artist is always posting new stuff there. We have an Instagram as well, Gokai Studios. You can find me at Body Signs and Dropkicks on Twitter and the Facebook page. You can find me at Gokai Studios on the Facebook page. And you can find me, as usual, writing some of the other series performed by Nathan Tasker here.
There are so many, I'm not even going to even think about mentioning them.
But I figure we'll put Nathan on the spot here and have him jump voice to voice. We have Rusty Exterminator. Our
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
We have I was a living voice actor until I got bit, aka Zombie Nathan.
Shut up, Fraser.
And we may have, if we're lucky, the return of Triple H Pokemon Adventures when his schedule opens up.
Please do that. Please.
Oh. Well, I will see what I can do. That is all I'll say on the moment. It's a lot bigger of a project than you think it is. Yeah, I'm working on that. That's all I can say. Yeah.
Nathan Tasker, the B movie life, because for some reason, every time a DVD falls from my shelf, Nathan Tasker somehow plastered on the disc.
I legitimately don't know how that happens. Like, first of all, with all due respect, sir, how do you have that many pictures of me in your house?
I don't know. It's getting really weird. I've had to open up the Nathan Tasker Memorial.
I'm just thinking, did Helena find my Facebook and print off like 556 copies of my profile picture just to mess with you? Like,
oh no, we got your headshots. We got all your professional headshots.
Oh, lovely. Oh, lovely. All three of them. Yes.
Yeah, the one where you're doing the blue steel, the chrome.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All three of them. Nice. And they're like plastered on your DVD case. Oh, here's a question: when you watch those movies with your family, do you feel like a bad taste in your mouth every time, or what? Like,
Pretty much. I always wonder how you kind of convert yourself into like Danny DeVito, Bruce Campbell. That one time you had to be Dean Cauley for that biopic of Adam Sandler.
Well, see that one,
Yeah, right.
that one, honestly, like I don't do a whole lot of erotica. Okay, I really don't. But that was honestly one of the most uncomfortable movies ever. It's like, think of the pure love between Jack and Lois in that last scene of Titanic. But plaster it throughout 117 minutes. And honestly, like all the direction was okay. The end goal here is to get Adam Sandler in your bed.
Or you did Casablanca, where you had to get Shawn Michaels on that plane to Mania.
Now that actually was one of the easiest performances I've ever done. If you don't get on that plane and wrestle the Undertaker at WrestleMania 25, you're going to regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday. It was one of the easiest performances ever. That one was. I remember Scott. I remember I somehow managed to swap in for Scott Eastwood and this weird wooden rocking chair in Fork and Spoon, which is more wooden. And I remember for some reason the chair got a much better review than I did. It was honestly, as an actor, as a voice actor, I'm kind of insulted by that. But this chair, honestly, no disrespect, it was very, very good at portraying Scott Eastwood. But that's really all I can say about that. I mean, I don't know what else. Like, maybe if you've got more questions for me that you'd like to interview about my B movie exploits, man. But I got nothing, man.
Right. Unfortunately, we're a family show. We cannot go into his adult films, unfortunately.
Oh, for the love of God. You already went into one of my adult films, dude!
Once,
do you not
twice,
know? Have you not seen the I Was a Living Sandler?
Or the once, twice, 3 times I had to take Dean to that one Adam Sandler movie.
Oh, God.
It was... All I can say, man, is it was 8 crazy nights rolled into one. I mean, I tried to say, Dean, no, but he said, Sandler's on screen. I simply must.
I'm Adam Sandler.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, Dean, do the voice. You gotta do the voice. We do it just to hear you say the voice.
I'm sorry, my brain is absolutely... I just literally lost all interest when you said Adam Sandler.
But you always do.
Technically, Nathan's already done it for me. You just literally sound like he's constipated every time he talks.
That looks like a bad movie.
I think we have our next episode. Dean, next podcast, we're going to pitch you Adam Sandler movie names and get your opinion on it. I just want to see you just rapid fire it.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Oh, mate, please do that.
That sounds like...
Just so everyone knows, make sure your kids aren't there, because majority of my answers will be, shit, shouldn't have been made, it's not even worth my time, absolute waste, trash. I'd rather watch... In fact, what would I rather watch from an Adam Sandler movie?
Paint Dry, the musical.
I'd rather watch a Kate Bosworth movie than an Adam Sandler movie. At
really?
Least she makes the odd good one, I will say that. He just doesn't make any good ones.
Producer, if you are reading this, like, you can take that as a snippet and just like use it in every future argument.
She will.
You realize?
I know her. She will.
And you made a conscientious
cannot be
choice
anymore.
Oh man, I feel sorry for you, man.
Oh, so Your sympathy is very well noted. Just while they were doing that, my socials are my usual, which is Final Cut Official on Insta and Final Cut Talk on Twitter, and obviously B&D on Insta and Twitter. Just before we go, boys, I do actually have one last port of business. It's not with you two. It's earlier this year, I do remember talking to you two about this. I decided that I would start interviewing racing drivers. I've only had one. I meant to have another one, but it keeps getting put back because obviously this time of year it's premium motorsport season. So the one man that I did interview before the season started, and I'm going to give this away now for anyone who is a motorsport fan. Before the F3 season started, I interviewed a very young man named Dennis Hauger. And the only one I've had, and I am absolutely thrilled, blessed, privileged, and all that, to say that this weekend in Russia, Dennis Hauger became the F3 champion. My one and only motorsport interview, and he's actually become champion. So big congratulations to Dennis, and obviously to the Italian Premier team for which he drives. I actually asked him that one time, what would you do if you won? And he says he doesn't know. I guess the question next time, if I can get hold of him before next season, is what are you going to do now you're champion? But seriously, I'm so happy for him. I've been following his progress every single race. Bearing in mind the F3 calendar is a bit shorter than an F1 calendar, but I've been following him every single round. I've seen him do well. I've seen him do moves that I myself would be proud of someone of Max Verstappen's caliber would actually do. But he's come through. He's faced all adversity, and he's done it. He's become a champion. I'm so happy for him. So with that being said, if there is any prospective motorsport drivers, all I'm going to say is F3 champion, my first interview, he's champion. If you want to be a champion, come and see me. I'll interview you. I'll make you a champion.
You have that record really? On Final Cut. You interviewed Rhino, and didn't he end up winning the tag titles?
He did actually, yeah. Don't forget Diana Perazzo on B&D as well. Diana Perazzo is still Impact World Champion. Rohit Raju, still one of the best X Division champions there is. Who else was there? Who else have we had?
Eddie Edwards.
He has been a champion, but he hasn't been one yet.
Johnny Swinger.
I think Johnny Swinger's kind of retired. I'm not sure if he's retired. I've not really seen him in ages. Actually, selling that. It's only
Ace
fair.
Austin.
You know what I do? Yeah, Ace Austin. Yeah, he's been X Division champion. I will say one thing. I do need actually need to have a word with Mr. Austin about this. I really need Alicia. We really need Alicia Edwards on there. B&B.
We had the Knockout Tag Team Champions as well.
We did as well. Yes. So as far as wrestling goes, I am a champion magnet. As far as racing drivers go, I am the champion magnet. So if anyone is a champion in motorsport or wrestling, come and see me. So
Tyson Dukes, who has multiple championships.
Well, technically, that was you.
Yes, that was me.
That was him.
And our podcast who comes on every week and is a 14-time world champion.
Oh yes, don't forget Vincent Kennedy McMahon as well, who used
to be an ECW champion.
I won the WWE and ECW championship.
Right, with Vince McMahon here, that's obviously cue to skidoo. So thank you everyone for listening. Obviously, congratulations, Dennis, if you are hearing this. And we will see everyone, all being well. We have actually said YouTube Live next week, but we think it might be instead. We're not sure. We're still working out the bits and bobs. But when we actually decide on something, we will let you know. So hopefully see you live next week. You're going to turn it off.
Right.